Well, the author of that report, Bastien Renouil, now joins me from Nairobi to discuss. We can also welcome to the program Jean-Nicolas Armstrong Dangelser, the head of mission in Sudan at Doctors Without Borders. It's great to have you both with us on the program today. Bastien, I'd like to begin by asking you first. I understand that the situation for journalists has become increasingly dire since the war. Give us an insight to what the journey was like. Was it difficult getting access to film in Sudan?
Yeah, it's quite difficult. First, it's difficult to get a visa and a permit to work there. Then you need a travel permit. Once you reach Port Sudan, you need this permit to cross the 40, 50 or 60 checkpoints on the way to Khartoum. And then once you reach Khartoum's region, you have to get the authorization from the military to access any area, to talk to people. You're not allowed to meet anyone if you don't have a military officer with you. And then it's also very difficult to access the front line. So it was the case when I was there months ago. Now it's a bit different because the military have retaken the capital. But at the time, it was not possible to work freely. And that's a huge difference with what we've seen in the past. In 2019, after the revolution, we were free to do whatever we wanted. So the situation currently is at least as bad as it was under Omar al-Bashir's rule before 2019.
And Bastien, just continuing with you for a bit, since the army pushed out the RSF, the Sudanese army has been urging residents to return to Khartoum. But, more than 3 million people have fled the Khartoum region alone. So what awaits them? I mean, the streets are obliterated. There's complete destruction. the United Nations described siege-like conditions. I mean, paint us a picture of what they're coming home to, essentially.
Well, as you saw in this report, it's very difficult to go back to your place because many houses have been destroyed, many have been looted by the rapid support forces, but some say by the Sudanese military as well. And then once you get back to your house, there is no running water, there is not enough food, or if the food is available, it's very expensive, and most of the people have lost their jobs, so they don't have any money. They've been away for 2 years now, and when they return, they don't have any money. So it's very difficult for them. And that's why they're counting on other Sudanese to help them. That's what you saw in this report with this man who is running this kitchen, trying to help as many people as possible. But that's expensive as well. So they're counting on the diaspora to do that. After 2 years of war, people are tired. They do not want to give more money. So it's becoming more and more difficult. So that's for the daily life, but there is also the medical situation. You've seen in this report, Dr. Jamal, he's he's working in one of the 2 hospitals, still working in the Khartoum region. And it makes it very difficult for people to access health and medicines. And that's why it's very important to have also international NGOs as Doctors Without Borders working in Khartoum's region, because without them, it would be even more difficult for civilians who are trying to return to the capital region.
All right, I'd like to just bring in Jean-Nicolas. As Bastien was just saying there, the work would be significantly more difficult without a body like Doctors Without Borders present on the ground. So, we're hearing numerous reports that, many hospitals are completely destroyed, obliterated, and barely struggling to stay functional. So how are Doctors Without Borders, helping those in need on the medical front?
Thank you. At the moment, we are supporting hospitals to continue to run, and Al Now is a perfect example, as we supported them since the beginning of the war to continue serving the people, as it was said by Dr. Jamal. Then we are also supporting mobile clinics from the Ministry of Health. So basically, it's mobile teams that are going with cars in different areas. As it's shown in the documentary, a lot of people are not in their places of where they used to live. A lot of people are in displaced sites in schools and others. So this is why we are using those Ministry of Health mobile teams to be able to reach the people. And with the recent retaking of Khartoum, central Khartoum and South Khartoum by the Sudan armed forces, we have been able to access as well former detainees of the RSF that have just the skin on their bone, basically, and are really in dire situation, completely malnourished. So this is the way that at the moment we manage to support the population.
I mean, speaking of the humanitarian response in Sudan, it remains, still remains nowhere near close enough to meeting the needs of the Sudanese population, does it?
Yes, the needs continue to increase because even if the fighting is getting away from the capital city, it's shifting even more to the west region of Kordofans and Darfurs that are also in dire needs of humanitarian assistance, and we see constant displacement. And as mentioned in the documentary, but also as we see now more accelerating, there are hundreds and hundreds of buses of people that were displaced in different cities in Sudan or even abroad that are now coming back, for example, to Khartoum, but also to other states like Jazeera or Sennar, which is creating even more needs because, as well shown in your images, there is barely some water. The electricity grid is down because the cables have been stolen, etc. The health system, as you rightfully mentioned, is completely collapsed. So the humanitarian system has a very hard time to keep up. And with the recent cuts in US aid, but also that we see in other countries in Europe that are starting to cut funds for international aid and prefer their military expenses, we are seeing our humanitarian system struggling more and more to actually respond to the needs, even when the areas are accessible and that the people need it.
And we've also heard of, funds being sent from Sudanese communities abroad to the population in Sudan. Are these sufficient, and how do they actually reach those in need on the ground?
I think that at the moment, no system is sufficient, even if it's complementary. The international aid system, the diaspora, even people that are still also living in Sudan and helping others. It's going through Bangkok, which is the mobile money, and this is how money is raised also with the diaspora and with people that they trust, and this is the system that are in place. And those mutual aid system, we have to remember also, they are deeply rooted in the Sudanese culture. It's not something that came up with the war. We also saw it during the revolution with the resistance committees. Then we saw it during the war with the emergency rooms, with the takia, etc. That is something that existed already in the social fabric of Sudan.
So, Bastien, I'd like to bring you back. So we heard there from Jean-Nicolas that the humanitarian situation is beyond dire. Now, people are celebrating, obviously, the end of the RSF rule, but the army has also been accused of targeting civilians. What are some of the stories you've heard? And, like when it comes to the killing of civilians, are there any first-hand testimonies you've heard?
Well, most of the testimonies we heard were accusing the rapid support forces. And for one reason, as I mentioned earlier, we were always with a member of the Sudanese military. So people are not crazy. They're not going to say bad things about the Sudanese soldiers if they are around. They know there could be reprisals. But what we know for sure is that in some areas, after retaking control of different cities, not around Khartoum, but in different places, Sudanese military have been accused of targeting civilians, of suspecting men to collaborate with the rapid support forces. They've been accused of torture, of killing men, and that's something that is widespread. It's been told by many people across Sudan. And in addition, we know that the Sudanese military are shelling markets, they're shelling civilian houses, they've been shelling hospitals from time to time. They do not care about civilians that much. So when you're with them in Khartoum, they explain that, of course, they want to liberate the capital, that they want people to be back. But when they want to fight the rapid support forces, they're not going to pay attention to the civilians. And that's what happened a few weeks back in North Darfur. The rapid support forces are controlling the state except one city. They're trying to break the siege of this city. It's a city called El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur. They've been bombarding markets, as an example. A few weeks ago, more than 100 people died, according to local sources, because the Sudanese military are just shooting where they can, trying to target the rapid support forces, but sometimes it lands somewhere else.
And just, linking this back to what Jean-Nicolas was saying earlier, I imagine that all the continued fighting between the army and the RSF is making the humanitarian work even harder. Now, Bastien, UN and human rights organizations have also warned against extrajudicial killings in Khartoum. That's the Sudanese army executing civilians suspected of cooperating with the RSF. What more do we know about that?
Well, that's what civilians say. I've heard several testimonies saying that if you are suspected of collaborating with the rapid support forces, your life is at risk. And we know for sure that it's been the case in the past. So not in Khartoum, but in other cities. I've seen videos of men being shot directly in the head. I've seen videos of men thrown from a bridge into a river. We know for sure that it's something that's been happening since the beginning of the war, and that will continue till the army take the full control of the country. And unfortunately, it seems very difficult to imagine that happening anytime soon, because the rapid support forces are still present in several regions. Jean-Nicolas mentioned Kordofan and the region of Darfur. These regions are huge. Darfur is almost the size of France. They are fully controlling the region. So it will take months, years, if not more, to retake control of this region. So as the war rages, of course, the Sudanese military and the rapid support forces are going to target civilians. There will be retaliation, that's for sure.
Jean-Nicolas, just lastly and very quickly, if you will, as we're running out of time, as someone who is based in Sudan and who's witnessing this devastation, this fighting on a daily basis, do you see peace as a sustained peace as a possibility in the near future?
It's extremely complicated to say that this is going to happen soon. As Bastien just mentioned, the fighting is shifting more west, even though at the moment the Sudan armed forces recaptured Khartoum city. There is still fighting ongoing in the west and in the south of Omdurman city, the twin city of Khartoum. So, as Bastien just mentioned, this is far from over, and the humanitarian needs are going to continue to grow, unfortunately, and we will have to continue to sustain our efforts, and the international community will really have to focus on this crisis to be able to bring it to an end and to bring the aid direly needed from the population.
All right, Bastien Renouil, our correspondent, and Jean-Nicolas Armstrong Dangelser, great to hear your invaluable first-hand experiences in Sudan. Thank you so much to you both for joining us on the program today. And